On today's August 8th episode of Locked On Pirates, of course, we are joined by Gary Morgan as we are every single Monday. It was a 4-2 week for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and we are going to preview the upcoming week for Pittsburgh. It's a West Coast week, so West Coast Demons, it's time to be up until 1 a.m. watching Pittsburgh Pirates baseball this week. So we'll preview the Diamondbacks and Giants series for this week. Also, at this point, I think it's pretty clear what the Pirates are going to need in 2023. So, what do we expect from this team for the rest of this year? What should they add in the offseason coming up? And how much different is this team going to really look heading into the 2023 spring training period? Today's episode is brought to you by Vroom, LinkedIn, and BetOnline, but more on them later. Thank you also for making me your first listen of the day every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Ethan Smith, your host who does the most. See you on the flip side as we get today's episode started.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Alrighty, everybody. Welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast. I am, of course, your host, Ethan Smith. To my right, as always, every Monday morning is Gary Morgan, and it was a very fun week of Pirates baseball, I would say. I mean, the Baltimore series was kind of boring, in my opinion. I'm going to be honest. I was watching some of those games, and I was like, something happened. Like, you know the meme with the guy with the stick where he pokes it and is like, do something, please? That was kind of what I was hoping for the whole series, and then of course, yesterday, I memean, there was a bunch of hijinks in that game yesterday that were just, like, weird. I don't know. It was a fun series, though. I enjoyed it. The Pirates went 4-2 on the week. If they continue that, that would be great. But a lot like last year, Gary, you mentioned before we started recording today, it's kind of evidently clear where this team needs to improve heading into next year. And I think that it's not going to require as many moves as people think, but there are moves that need to be made. So, 3 moves in the offseason that you think would make this team better, like just 3 simple moves that you think could take this team, not necessarily into contention, but make this team a lot better than the product it has this year.
They're the same things they were last year. They need a catcher again. I mean, like, absolutely no doubt need a catcher. They still need to address first base, and they still need to get a starting rotation member, preferably a left-handed option. So, and that's even if you think Michael Chavis is an answer. They got to have somebody that can hit right-handed pitching more consistently, even though he had 2 hits yesterday off of 1. I mean, those 3 things aren't going to change because they don't have them systematically. They're not coming. Mm-hmm. So, got to go out and get it if you want to compete next year. And you're not really trying to prop the door open for anybody right now. If Mason Martin has some kind of meteoric jump, I'm not 100% sure you trust it real quick because he does it just about every year. So, I don't know. I think there's probably a frustration level there because it's the same problems they had. And they really could have gone out and addressed them this year in a multi-year fashion instead of trying to plug the holes with guys like Yoshi or even guys like Roberto Perez, who may very well be back.
Yeah, and that's going to be an interesting thing to take part in about the catcher thing is it was so hard to evaluate what Roberto Perez did for this team because he didn't play that long. He just got hurt, which is something that I don't throw it out here, but me and Gary kind of warned everybody about. We kind of expected it to happen, and it sucks that it happened because the guy is not that bad of a catcher. He's one of the better defensive catchers in all of baseball, but it was expected. It's just something that's happened over his career. Now you've just had this revolving door of catchers. I mean, I think I could, even playing trivia here, Gary, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong here, but we've had Andrew Knapp, Jason DeLay, Tyler Heineman, Jose Godoy, Roberto Perez, and Michael Perez. Correct? That's been it. Am I forgetting anybody? That's it.
I don't think that's it. And one of those I only know is this catcher. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I
it's
just
like,
refuse to even learn his name.
well, and what was crazy yesterday is I keep talking about this catcher thing with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they switched pitchers with Bryce Wilson, which I loved by Derek Shelton, by the way. I want to bring that up. I love that Derek Shelton learned from a mistake that he made in Bryce Wilson's last start. He saw that he gets past that fifth inning, and he immediately, for some reason, falls off a cliff in the sixth inning. He gave up that hit to Cedric Mullins. He said no. But then Jose Godoy is catching, I believe it was Eric Stout, and literally I've never seen this ever since I watched baseball, but I just start seeing him do this, and he was like pulling his finger, and I was like, what is going on here? And he strained his fingers, like literally, just like, I was like, how does this happen?
If you think way back to the very beginning of the season, Brian Hayes had the same issue on his glove hand.
Oh, well, I was saying I haven't really ever seen that with a catcher. Like
It doesn't really matter the position. It's weird
Yeah.
to begin with.
Yeah.
It's a cramping issue for the most part, and it's odd at the very least. And imagine like you've struggled and toiled to get to the major leagues, and finally a team is desperate enough to pick you up, even though your name is just this catcher. And they bring you in and they put you on the roster, and the first time you get an opportunity to start, you get a cramp in your throwing hand and just have to pull yourself out of the game pretty much. Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, this team set themselves up for the hilarity that has ensued at the catching position because, as we said, they brought in Roberto Perez and trusted him to play more than 80 games. I never did. And to me, it was so obvious that he wasn't going to play 120 games, even if he remained healthy, that it was foolish to not bring in somebody qualified to be the backup catcher. They didn't do it, and now we're diving for dumpsters, trying to find guys that can come in and catch for an inning. There's people out there right now who have hated Josh Van Meter all year, who think that there's a reason to keep him just because he caught a couple innings. And that's how bad it is right now.
I was going to say, at what point do we actually consider that Josh Van Meter is still on this baseball team because he can actually he has the ability to catch?
I would never consider it until I watched this catcher the other day look like he had never caught a ball before.
Yeah, and I'm just like, which last week as well, you see Yoshi Tsutsugo finally get DFA'd. In other news that I like to bring up, Yu Chang is batting like 354 with the Rays right now because of course he is.
He's only got 34 at bats. Let's calm
down.
down.
I know. But I think it's hilarious seeing people like blow up about it. They're like, oh my God, he has like a 350 average since he left the Pirates. And I'm like, yeah, it's because the Rays are a factory of just creating people that are great. But we're actually going to talk about something that just came in my head. It was something that I wasn't going to talk about with Gary, but it's something that I noticed that he tweets about a lot that I want to pick his brain at, because I think it's hilarious. But before we get into that, if you're looking for people right now in what's about to be a steady fall season of work, make sure you use LinkedIn. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small businesses fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then, add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know that every week, nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Yeah, the Pirates probably visit LinkedIn at this point to fill a catcher position. So if you want to go catch, just throw that on there. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So as you guys know, I have Gary on this show every Monday. I always talk about stuff that he tweets all the time that cracks me up. And this is something that we didn't even talk about before we started recording here, and I thought I wanted to talk about it because it's pretty hilarious. We were talking about what we want to see from this baseball team moving forward in 2023. And Gary, you just so happened to tweet about a certain guy that needs to stay away from players on their off days. Is that something that you would also like to see happen in this offseason where Andy Haynes just gets the boot? Because honestly, every time you tweet about it, I crack up. Like, you're just like, stay away from him. Don't listen to him.
There's some ongoing themes this year, and one of them I think has just been the offensive ineptitude. And some of that obviously gets racked up to talent. Some of that gets racked up to bringing up AAA guys or AA guys in some cases and expecting them to hit major league pitching. But some of it is approach, general approach that they tend to have with these guys, wanting them to take pitches, wanting them to work pitchers, wanting them to get starters out of games, even though the league has evolved to bullpen arms. It's just an overall approach, information overload type thing that is going on in that dugout. I'm hearing it from players. I'm hearing it from other people involved. It's not a guess anymore. They either need to control Andy Haynes and have him speak from the same pulpit as Derek Shelton, or they need to find somebody who will.
Yeah, and I mean, again, that's the one thing that people who listen to this podcast, when you're not on, when I recap games or I say what's the key to victory for the Pirates, I've always used that 5-run rule. And we look at last week, I use this rule all the time. I say the 5 runs. You look at how the Pirates have done this year. They score 5 runs. They win 8-1 yesterday. They win 5-4, 8-7, and 5-3 against the Brewers. What happened in the 2 games they didn't win this week, Gary? They didn't score 5 runs. They barely hit the baseball. And even in that first Brewers game,
a whole list of teams in the 20s, I would say, that could probably identify with that. You score 5 runs, you should win a baseball game.
Yeah.
There aren't any teams that should be able to say the opposite. This team's pitching well enough to win more games than they are. They're not hitting
100%.
even to a competent level. And when I look at that lineup now, at this point, I don't feel the same way I did at the beginning of the season. Beginning of the season, you knew it had to come back around to Reynolds and Hayes, and maybe something would happen. Now, that's not the case. You've got O'Neill Cruz contributing, you've got Marcano contributing, you've got Kevin Newman really hitting well since coming off the IL. They've got enough pieces there that they should be scoring more runs. So, let's see it. Let's see better swings. Let's see better approaches to situational ball.
Well, another thing you brought up, too, that I find very interesting, and it's something I should probably look up one of these days because I do like doing the deep dive on stats, is you brought up the taking the pitches thing, and I get it. I get being patient at the plate. I get seeing all that. But you're also not telling me that opposing pitchers don't know that you guys take pitches like it's your life depends on it. They're going to pump the strike zone. So then if you're taking pitches the whole game and you're down 0-2 the entire game, are you really doing yourself a favor? No, because then you're going to have to swing at that curveball that Corbin Burns is going to throw at you in the dirt that looks like it's above your head, or the slider that Ranger Suarez is going to throw that's going to start at your chest and go all the way outside. You have to make it make sense to take pitches. And again, I get being patient. And then you even brought up, too, that the league is shifting now to where bullpen arms are arguably getting scarier than starting pitching arms are. I mean, look at Josh Hader before he went on that slide with Milwaukee since, like, June, whatever it was. I mean, the guy was literally unhittable. I think he had a 0 ERA for, like, 2 months. Again, we brought it up earlier, too, about just how important it is to have a lefty arm in a rotation or a bullpen. The last 2 years, the Pirates have done well at getting them. but they haven't put themselves in a position to keep those guys. Because again, you heard me like about a month ago. I said if they would have chosen to keep Quintana and sign him to like a small deal, I would have been completely okay with it because it would have shored up something potentially. Who knows?
Yeah,
what
and as
Quintana's
soon as
gonna
they
turn
signed
into.
him to a 1-year deal, they doomed themselves to that not being an option
Yeah,
because Quintana himself said he wasn't going to negotiate an extension in season. So there's no way they were going to get that kind of an assurance. And if they like the guys they got back, and they certainly seem to think Oviedo can be a starter for them. And they certainly think Nunez provides power from the right side, which they desperately need. So, it's all in all, it's probably a good signing. I personally think Quintana's having a really good year. I think he's, and I heard somebody on another podcast, Bucks in the Basement, actually said, I think what we might be seeing with Quintana is more of the light bulb getting bright before it burns out, as opposed to a resurgence. I think that's probably very, very accurate.
yeah, I would think so too. I think he's going to have a good end of this year. I think he's going to help the Cardinals make a playoff push, and then next year it's going to go back to kind of the regular Quintana that we were used to since like 2017, 2018. But I mean, again, like there's a lot to talk about with this team on a daily basis. I think it's very fun that they've went back to the youth movement a little bit. You're starting to see a lot of these guys getting at bats that they desperately need. You're starting to see, and again, I'm also here to tell everybody, PSA announcement, O'Neill Cruz needs to bat leadoff. I don't care who else is there anymore. Marcano can bat leadoff too. That's fine. One of them has to, and they need to. I think Marcano has been recently, or I think it's Kevin Newman. It's one of the two that's been.
It's been both of those guys. I could see Allen being up there as well.
He had a hell of a game yesterday, by the way.
Yeah, and O'Neill Cruz, I'm okay putting him clean up, number 5. He seems to be starting to get at least a little bit more selective with what he's taking. I think he's overdoing it at times because people are the strike zone's bigger for a guy that size, and I think a lot of people discount that as being a nothing burger. But when you have a strike zone that is as good as 6 inches taller for him than some other players, it's a lot more plate to cover, and he's good at it. But he's going to take some strikes right at his knees that just look unbelievably low.
Yep.
It's not the same thing. Yeah.
People, like, if you guys want to actually compare those two and their strike zones and the pitches that they take, go watch Aaron Judge play. There's certain strikes that Aaron Judge will take that Yankee fans will want to throw water bottles and beer cans at the umpire, and then you go look at the replay and it's right at his knees. I mean, it's just how it is. The only thing that I've noticed from O'Neill Cruz that I think he is definitely going to improve on at some point that I knew he was going to struggle with, and I wanted to tell people, but I knew I would have gotten the torches and the fire, the sticks.
Pitchforks, yeah.
Yeah. The dude is going to struggle against off-speed pitching because he's never been able to hit it before and he's never seen it. You saw it yesterday. Like, the Orioles started noticing, oh, this kid cannot hit a changeup right now to save his life. But he is going to eventually figure it out. And when he does figure it out, get ready for balls to fly over the fence really quick. Because if he starts hitting off-speed pitching, he already hits fastballs. You can notice how they attack him. They don't throw him fastballs. Like, I'm sure, like, the pitching coach on the opposing team, do not throw this kid a fastball. He's going to kill it. You saw that home run he had the other night in Pittsburgh where he literally hit the beer garden out there in right center field. He hit the top of the fence off of a fastball. And it was
off
against
of
the
a
lefty
too, which you're supposedly not able to hit.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and I think it's hilarious with him. Is like people are like, "Oh, he struggles against lefties." I'm like, "Yeah, he does." But if the lefty throws him a fastball, he's probably killing it either way.
Here's the thing: with all the struggles that O'Neill Cruz has, he's still on pace for 30-some home runs and 116-some RBI if he had played from the very beginning of the season to now. So he's still very much so a contributor. He's still very much so a threat. And, a threat that is just finding his way in the league right now. If you expect him to be a finished product right now, I mean, you haven't watched baseball very long. It's going to
Oh.
take a while.
And also, a fun stat that I brought up yesterday, which I think is still accurate, um, is that he's like 5 RBIs off of the lead for RBIs on the team, and he's been there for 40 games. Yeah, I think Reynolds leads it with 34. Vogelbach had 34, and then Cruz has 29 now. So
Yeah,
fun
and I
little
have no
stat
doubt
there.
he'll finish the season in that lead. So
Oh yeah, 100%. I think so as well. But before we get into the week ahead, if you guys want to bet on the Pirates to beat the Diamondbacks tonight, which go for it if you want, but Tyler Beede is the projected starter. So we'll see how that goes against Zach Gallen. But you can use betonline.net. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. Find your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, sports, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today, and BetOnline is where the game starts. So again, West Coast Demons, comment below when you watch this episode. I want to see you guys who are going to be up until 1 a.m. watching these games. We get a 9:40, 9:40, 9:40, 3:40, 10:15, 9:05, 4:05 start this week. 7 games against the Arizona Diamondbacks and the San Francisco Giants. 2 teams in the NL West, along with the Rockies, who have kind of just realized that they are not catching the Padres or the Dodgers. What do we expect? I mean, the Diamondback series, I think, is a toss-up. I don't really know what to expect from it. I haven't really watched the Diamondbacks this year. I haven't talked about the Diamondbacks much this year. And we've seen the Giants already. The Giants are still very much, to me, a decent baseball team, even though they're 53 and 55. I thought they should have sold more at the deadline, especially after all the moves the Padres made to bring in the plethora of talent that they brought in. But those are the 2 opponents this week, Gary. So what do we expect from the Pirates facing both of them?
I mean, first of all, the Giants are very much so the definition of the tortoise and the hare. They will run the slow race. They will hold on to veterans longer than anybody else would. They will not trade guys that everyone else thinks they should. They will build their team in their fashion, and they will wind up competing when they have no business competing in that division. That's just what they do. And as far as Arizona goes, I don't know what to expect. Their pitching tells me that the Pirates should probably have a pretty decent time at the plate. But that hasn't always translated, so who knows? Arizona's a crapshoot for the Pirates. They always seem to play badly against them. And I don't know. It almost doesn't matter as much as individual performance.
Yeah, and that's where I think a lot of Pirates fans, including myself, are getting to, is like the games, winning the games this past week was fun. I will say that it was a fun thing to watch. At this point, though, I'm really keying in on who is going to continue to do well on this team for the next 2 months. That's going to take that into 2023 and be a strong part of this baseball team. I think you have the obvious guys. Reynolds, Hayes, and Cruz in the lineup are like the obvious guys. I think you could slowly and steadily start including Tucupita Marcano in there if he continues to play this way. I just want to see that over an extended period of time. I might get a lot of crap for this, but if Kevin Newman keeps playing like this, I don't know how you take him out of the lineup. You just, I mean, even going into next year, the guy looks like he is kind of getting the bat figured out a little bit since he came back. And with that kind of defense and that bat right now, that's not something you easily take out of the lineup, I don't think.
No, because he's a locked-on major league player, which they don't have many of. So, yeah, you don't want to necessarily just let him go for nothing.
Nice plug. I like that. A locked-on major league player. Lord. Gary, I don't know, man. This is the point of the year now where it's so hard to predict who's going to make a difference just because, I mean, at this point, they only have 2 months to do so. As far as a prediction for this week, though, because we always like to make those, I think they're going to go 3-4. I think they come back down to earth a little bit. I think they split with Arizona, and then I think they lose 2 of 3 to San Francisco, which means they'll probably get swept by Arizona and sweep San Francisco. Because last week I said they'd get swept by the Brewers and beat the Orioles in one of the games, which I was half right. But most of the time, my predictions are not good. So listen to my predictions, and then go to Bet Online and bet the complete opposite. I promise you it will work out better for you.
I think I like your 3-4 prediction. I would hope for a little better. I think that the lineup at least is starting to show signs of life. And I know that they didn't score a lot of runs in Baltimore, but that's a good pitching Baltimore team now. It really is. Baltimore's a better team than I think people really want to understand based on their record. But in that division, they've treaded water to the point where they're above 500, and they can hang. They really could. If you plop them right in the NL Central, they might do some damage in the NL Central. You think about it, they might end up like second. You know, they're a good team.
In the NL Central, you think they'd finish second?
In the NL Central, I think they could. Yeah. I think right now their roster, to me, lines up better than the Cardinals.
I think it lines up better than Milwaukee at this point.
Yeah, but they can't pitch with Milwaukee. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think they can compete in this division a lot better than their own is the point. And I think a lot of people kind of just forget where they're playing and who they're stuck with and who they're getting beat up by. And they're not necessarily thinking of it league-wide, which is why next year I think one of the things we'll get to look forward to is the new balanced schedule, and I think it's going to change some things like that.
Yeah, the AL Central is going to be very interesting. But with that said, Pittsburgh, Arizona, Pittsburgh, San Francisco this week. We had a fun episode, as we do always on Monday mornings here with Gary Morgan. It's always a good time having him on. Make sure you guys go check out Locked On Steelers with Christopher Carter. He's been, I'm going to be honest, I haven't been on Twitter that much, so I've been losing track of where he is. But I keep seeing that he keeps getting new fun job offers. So I'm like, go check him out at Locked On Steelers, because I know he's still here. And the Steelers' first preseason game is this Sunday. Also, go check out Hunter Hodes over at Locked On Penguins and Nick Farbaugh over at Locked On Pitt. Of course, the Penguins are in the offseason, and Pitt football comes back against West Virginia in the Backyard Brawl in about 2 weeks, I believe. So plenty of stuff going on the network of the Pittsburgh Locked On Network. Guys, thank you so much. My name is Ethan Smith. That's Gary Morgan. Make sure you check out his 5 Thoughts at 5 over at Bucks in the Basement today on Monday. And guys, I will see you on the flip side.